What's up, YouTube? Today's video is the games I picked up for the month of March 2016. And the theme that's running very consistent with this video and the last few videos I've done is that the gaming used market is really drying up for old games. I'm having a lot harder time finding stuff to show you guys in these videos, so hopefully you're still enjoying them. But overall, the amount of pickups that I'm able to find every month is definitely dwindling over the last few months. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. I did get a few things that I thought were super cool this month. Hopefully you feel the same way. And definitely looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say about this. So first thing I'm going to show you guys is some Sega systems I got games for this month. And we will start off with the Sega Genesis. This is one I just picked up the other day, and that is Fatal Rewind. This one is complete, and it is one of the EA published games, but it was actually developed in Europe by Psygnosis. Looks to be an action game. Hopefully it'll be pretty good. Don't really know a whole lot about it, but I know some of these early Psygnosis games are actually pretty decent, so we'll see how this one is. Next one I got is one I've been reading quite a bit about lately. It goes very cheap. It's just one that I was kind of curious about, and that is Subterrania. This was one of the later Sega published games that came in a clamshell case. That I think very soon after this game was released, they went to the paper box cases. So it's kind of nice to get one of the last ones of those. Looks to be some kind of quasi-shooter action game. I don't really know the whole deal with this one, but I have read some good things about it lately, so looking forward to trying this one as well. I also just got this right before I shot the video, so didn't really have time to play it yet. The next one I got for the Genesis is probably the best thing I got this whole month. This game I've been looking for complete for a really long time. It's by my favorite publisher, which is Taito, and this is GROWL for the Genesis. Really awesome beat-em-up game with a unusual poaching and, poaching and beating up the poachers theme to it, with a lot of animals that are also your sidekicks as you go through the levels. Pretty easy game. I've actually beaten it a couple times, but a lot of fun. It started in the arcade, of course, and just a real difficult game to find complete for the Genesis. This game has shot up in price a lot lately, and actually got a pretty good deal on this locally, especially for the box and manual. I ended up replacing the cartridge with another one I already had. So very cool to get this. I don't know, just a big one off my Taito wish list, and I'm getting very close to a full, complete Taito set for the Genesis, so this was a big one off that accomplishment list too. Next one I got is another less important Genesis game, but it's another one that kind of had my interest. This one is Mutants, and I believe it's based on a poorly selling comic book or TV series, something like that. I don't really know. I just was kind of curious about it because it's one of the Sega Black Box published titles, so hopefully this one will be pretty good too. It didn't cost me much. I got one game for the Sega Master System this month, and that's really unusual. I don't normally find too many Master System games. This one was loose, but then I got it so cheap, I ended up looking it up later, and I was surprised how much this game even goes for loose. I think it was just because it was one of the later released Master System games in the US, so it's somewhat difficult to find. But that is Aerial Assault, and this one is a shooter. I actually was more familiar with this because I have this on the Sega Game Gear, and you can get that version a lot cheaper. Decent shooter, you know, like I say, it does okay for the limitations of the system, and I don't know, hopefully I can get this complete someday, but kind of was interested in it just because it was so cheap. The next game I got was one that I didn't really realize I needed, and once I found it and found out how much this thing goes for, I was very excited to find this. So I own a complete Sega Dreamcast set. If you've been watching my videos, you've probably seen footage of that when I was chasing for that set. But this was one that, a variant that I didn't realize that I wanted whenever I was building my Dreamcast set. And that is Speed Devils. And you're saying, Speed Devils? I see that game all the time. Well, look a little closer at this cover and see if you notice something a little different. So what they did was they actually censored the cover for this re-release version of it, and the Satan head in the center of the Speed Devils logo is now gone. So I thought that was really funny that they realized a sanitized version of it. What's even weirder, though, is if you open up the disc, it's the exact same disc as the first print. It still has Satan's head on it. There's nothing different about that. But I guess this was more marketable to Walmart shelves, and maybe Timmy Tukes' mom would let him buy this game. I don't know. But, however, that being said, this game goes for a lot of money. This is actually a very rare variant of the game. And the way they did this is incredibly lazy. They just pasted a cover over the original manual. So it's really just a sticker that they slapped on top of the manual. But kind of the Beatles Butcher cover of the Sega Dreamcast scene, I guess you could say. So it was cool. I don't know. I like the story about it more so than the actual game or the content, but very cool addition to my Dreamcast collection that I thought was complete, but now this will even put the cherry on top of that. So very nice to have this. The last game, or actually that was the last Sega game I got this month, and then I got one game for the Turbo CD or Turbo Duo. This is a game I've really been wanting for a long time. I did have to pay quite a bit of money for this, but I had kind of a dual purpose of why I wanted it. A, that I just really wanted to play it, and B, that it's a Working Designs title. This is actually the second to last Working Designs title I need to have a complete set, so I'm hoping by next month I'll have a complete set of Working Designs titles to show you guys very soon. And that is Exile Wicked Phenomenon. This game is very, very difficult to find, at least in my area. I had to go with an online sale on this one. It doesn't have the... there was an outer paper sleeve that these came with originally. I've seen copies with the paper sleeve go for like twice as much, and that's just stupid. So if you notice, if you flip it over, it doesn't actually have a barcode. It just has full artwork on the back, because the original paper sleeve would have been on it at retail purchase. But most people, it seems like, threw away the sleeve for these, so really hard to find it, not worth tracking down in my opinion. The other interesting thing about this cover, and I don't know how well you can see this was a really neat cover created out of a real-life still shot that they used with some models. So this is the lead character of the game, I can't remember his name, going up against one of the big bosses in the game, and if you notice, they even used a fog machine to create the effect on the bottom here with these claymation models or whatever they were using. Just a really unique game cover, and I think it sticks out. The other thing I've heard about this game is there was a glitch whenever Working Designs brought over the US version of this, and they upped the enemy difficulty way too much. It was kind of like an algorithm that got messed up whenever they processed it for the game release. So the final boss in this game is pretty much unbeatable, is what I've heard, or at least you would just have to grind for hours and hours before you would get up enough energy to face that final boss. And the other thing I've heard about is just, in general, it's a very difficult game. So I'm looking forward to trying it. I don't think it's going to be one of my favorite Working Designs titles, but for the amount of difficulty this was to find, I'm definitely treasuring getting to own this. So, like I said, hopefully have a full Working Designs set to show off to you guys soon. It's one of my big gaming accomplishments I'm trying to complete this year, and very happy to add this to the collection. Alright, so let's move on to kind of what I've been focusing on over the last couple months, and that's been a lot of PS1 titles. It just really seems like the time to grab PS1 stuff before it gets exponentially expensive or disappears completely. So I had some nice PS1 finds this month. I'm going to show you probably the coolest one first. And this is one of the early long box titles that never got a jewel case reissue, so it's a pretty difficult one to find. And this is Silverload by Vic Tokai. This is a point-and-click adventure-style game. I haven't had a chance to try it yet, but I actually really do want to play this. It supports the PS1 mouse, which is kind of a cool feature that is underutilized in a lot of games. And just looks to be a pretty interesting game from what I've read about it. It just didn't do well. I think it had its origins as a PC title, so probably just didn't really get a lot of interest. I also think this cover hurt its sales. I mean, it's so black that there's just hardly anything that you could even see that's going on with the artwork. So I don't know, I think that was kind of a limitation, but very happy to get this. It's a game I just never ever see in stores. I just happened to get lucky and a local store got this in, and I snapped it up right away. So very cool to get Silverload for the PS1. I got one other big box game this month, and this one surprised me at how much it's going for, because I thought this was one of those kind of dirt common titles, and that is the original Tekken, the first print release in the long box. So I looked this up after I bought it, and I was really surprised. This is like a $30 game now. Kind of surprising. But Tekken I'm pretty neutral to. I've always liked what I've played. I just never really was, you know, a big hardcore Tekken fan. So I'll try this out. I'm sure it's dated compared to some of the newer ones, but we'll see how it goes. And just nice to get another Namco title in the long box. Alright, so let me show you some jewel case releases I got for the PS1 this month, and got probably the bulk of my buys this month were PS1 stuff, so got quite a few of these to show you. First one is the original MDK, and I was curious about this one. I never played it before, but the MDK 2 on Dreamcast, I actually did like that game, and it was very well reviewed. This one, I don't think many people played this. I don't really remember this being a big hit on the PS1, so I just grabbed it. I don't see it often, and decided to take a chance, so we'll see how it goes. Next one is a game I used to rent a lot on the PS1 when I first got my system, and I don't really know why I didn't buy it back then. I always enjoyed this game. But that is Wipeout XL. And this game had a really hot soundtrack for its time. A lot of the people that were making electronic music of that era were on this soundtrack, so I remember the music was pretty good in it. And looking forward to trying this out again. You know, I think the Wipeout series actually went downhill after this one, and this seems to be the classic of them, so just nice to get this off the list too. Next one is a game I probably won't play, but I was interested in it due to the publisher, and that is Strike Point. I do believe this is the last game that American Technos published in the US. And if you are a big fan of some of their early stuff on the NES, and even somewhat on the Super Nintendo, you probably were a pretty big fan of that publisher. They released a lot of great action games in those early days. But toward the end, toward the PS1 era, they just kind of petered out. They betrayed their roots, and I don't even know if they developed this game. They might have just published it. But sadly, American Technos is with us no more, and I just wanted this kind of as an artifact of their last release. Next is a game that I see fairly often, but it's almost always trashed, and I really wanted a nice copy of this game, including the demo CD that it originally had, and that is Tobal No. 1. This was Squaresoft's first attempt, I believe, at making a fighting game. It's okay. I went back and played it a little bit. I remember the outrage back in the early days of the PS1 when we didn't get the sequel to this game that was super highly acclaimed as a Japanese import, Tobal No. 2, of course, and just people freaking out over it. Like, why don't we have this game in the US? Some reason Squaresoft didn't give it to us, so this is all we got. The other reason this game is kind of hard to find with the demo is this is the first Final Fantasy VII demo that was released in the US, so a lot of people took that demo disc out of this and then sold the game back, and you never saw them put together again. So, just again, very nice to get a nice copy of this. I just keep seeing it and it's trash, so nice to have this. Next one's a game that I owned back in my early days of having a PS1, and I beat it, and then I just got rid of it back then. I kind of regretted it. But that is a original Black Label copy of Crash Bandicoot, and I will say pretty much the same thing with this game. Is whenever I find this game today, it's trashed. So finding a nice original copy of this that isn't a greatest hits or re-release version, it was pretty nice. And this time I'm sure I will hang on to it. So I think I only need one more of the original Crash Bandicoot series to have the set of those again. Next one is a Atlas RPG, strategy RPG that doesn't really go for a lot compared to a lot of the other Atlas games on the PS1. I just never find this game locally, and I got really lucky and I found this on a business travel this month. But that is Cartia, the World of Fate is the subtitle for this one. Kind of interested in it. I don't know, it's not really high on my radar to get a playthrough of this going, but just was happy to find it. You know, like I said, not one of the more expensive Atlas games, but I just never see it locally. Next one is a kind of a dumbed-down port of a game that I really enjoyed on the Dreamcast, but that is Capcom vs. SNK Pro. I forgot what made it the Pro version. I think maybe they added a couple characters that you didn't get on the Dreamcast or something like that. I think this came out after the Dreamcast version. But interesting, we got a very late Capcom fighter on the PS1, but I think the technical limitations of it really hurt it in this case. So just nice to have it as a curiosity, but not something that I'm probably going to play too much. Next game is one that I thought I had, and I found a cheap copy of this month, and I was actually just going to trade it off to somebody, but I ended up realizing I didn't own this. So that is the super cheesy cover of Mobile Light Force for the PS1. This game is, of course, the Psycho-developed shooter Gunbird, and I do own Gunbird for the Japanese Saturn. So not necessarily an essential title for me, but kind of curiosity as it had this really horrible rebranding for the US. Mobile Light Force 2 on the PS2 is also another game that is not related to Gunbird, which makes it even weirder. So, yeah, just nice to have one of the other final shooters, I think, for the PS1 that I didn't own. Next one is another unusual one that I just really don't know a whole lot about, but it is a 2-disc game, and it is called Inold Blood. This was one of the later full-price games that came out for the PS1. Most of the games that were coming out at this time were all budget titles. So maybe it's pretty good. I don't know. I think this might be a PC game as well. If you know anything about this game, please let me know, but just haven't had a chance to try it yet. And the last one I got for PS1 is one of the games that I'm learning is really difficult to find in jewel case form. This was an early release. It was originally a long box title, but that is High Octane. And just a you know, probably pretty average racing game. Just a curiosity to find the jewel case version of this. It doesn't go for a lot of money, but it is pretty difficult to find, I would say. This game also came out on the Saturn, so I've got it on Saturn as well, but yeah, probably not something to be playing either. So that's all the stuff I got for the PS1, so let me tell you about a few games I got for the PS2. First one of these is another game that I thought I had and realized I didn't, and kind of wanted to fix that, so that is Neoc Contra. I haven't played this one yet, but the first Contra on the PS2, Shattered Soldier, I really enjoyed that game. I think it got kind of average reviews, but I felt it was a nice, you know, return to the classic Contra gameplay style. So hopefully this one's pretty good too. I'm looking forward to trying this out. Next one is one that is actually pretty difficult to find for the PS2. I was actually just interested in this just because I never see it, and that is the SNK Fighter Neo Geo ports of King of Fighters 2001, and it also includes King of Fighters 2000. If you notice, I think one of the reasons this game is difficult to find is this was released by SNK Neo Geo Corporation, which is one of the rebranded versions of SNK that was brought back from the bankruptcy or whatever was going on at the time. I just think that this, I don't know, this version of the publisher didn't really have a lot of money, and then you saw the games branded as, what do they call it? SNK Playmore soon after this, so slightly different tale. I don't really know the whole history and all the SNK variations and financial troubles they were having, but I don't think they released a lot of this copy just due to all that was going on at the time. The last one I got for the PS2 is another budget title shooter in the US, and that is Castle of Shigagami 2, or as it was released here, just Castle Shigagami 2. This one, again, is a straight ripped-off port of a Japanese title that they cheapened out the artwork a little bit, and then released it as a cheap title for the PS2. I used to own this on the GameCube, and I actually didn't really like that game for the Japanese GameCube, so I'm deciding to give it another shot. It was cheap, and we'll see how it goes. Alright, so that's all the stuff I got for Sony systems this month. The rest of the video will all be Nintendo titles, and just a few more to show you, really. I only got one game for the Super Nintendo this month, and it was actually a game I already owned, but it was one that I really wanted to upgrade my copy of, because the copy I had was just really destroyed on the label. But that is the beat-em-up Captain Commando, and this was a late release. It's a pretty difficult game to find, honestly. Almost all of these I see were former Blockbuster rentals, and Blockbuster liked to put a big old label kind of like right over the front artwork of the game. So whenever people would tear those labels off, it would pretty much inevitably rip the artwork off. So I was very happy to get this one. It's not 100% mint by any means, but it is a much nicer copy than what I had. It's also a curious title for me, because this game plays perfectly on my original Super Nintendo, and then when I go to play it in the Super Nintendo 2 or the Junior or the Mini or whatever you want to call it, all the player character graphics are just nothing but glitches. You cannot play it and see your character. And I played it on both my older version of this cart that I thought was defective, and then this one does the exact same thing. I can't find anything on the internet about it. I don't know if it's just an incompatibility with the Super Nintendo 2, but the gameplay is great on my original Super Nintendo, so I'll just stick with that, but it's really curious. So my question to you this month is, if you own this game for the Super Nintendo and you own a Super Nintendo Mini, could you please test it out and tell me how it works on your system? Because I don't think it's just me. So I'll just throw that out there. I don't think my Super Nintendo 2 is broken. I've used it for a long time and keep it clean, and it works perfectly with every other game. So I don't know. Can't answer that one. Maybe you guys can tell me. So that's it for Super Nintendo. Let me tell you about a couple games I got for the DS. First one of these is Castlevania Portrait of Ruin. Just another one of the newer Castlevania 2D games that I wanted to have. Not really a high priority for me to play right now, but definitely looking forward to checking this out at some time. And then the other DS title I was much more interested in getting, because this one has been really difficult for me to find complete at a decent price, and that is The Wizard of Oz Beyond the Yellow Brick Road. For those of you that are not familiar, this is not a kiddie game. It's actually a RPG with Wizard of Oz characters. It is an Xseed title, which also interested me, and I've heard a lot of good things about this. I'm actually looking forward to getting some time with this on the go. So we'll see how it is, but definitely a difficult one to find for the DS. I got a few games for the GameCube this month, and the first one of these is one that I probably should have owned a long time ago and just never ended up buying. That is Pikman, and I have had the sequel to this for a while now. I just never had the original one, so definitely probably an essential of the GameCube. It's nice to have for the collection. Probably could say the exact same thing about this title. It's one that vaguely interested me, but it just seems to be one of those classic titles that everybody wants for the Cube, and that is Animal Crossing. So unfortunately this one was missing the memory card that it originally came with, I guess, but I don't know, maybe I'll try it someday. I know a lot of people get incredibly hooked on this game, and I don't know if I have the time investment to do that, so we'll see, but I guess just for now, just another nice one to have on the Cube. The final game I got for the GameCube is Bloody Roar Primal Fury, and this is a really ugly cover for this game. I always liked the Bloody Roar series. I think it's an interesting Hudson fighting game that started out on the PS1. I think this is just one of the refreshed versions of maybe the PS2 Bloody Roar 3 that they didn't keep that title for. I'm not positive about that, but haven't tried it yet, and that cover art is just awful. So I wish it had a cool cover like a lot of the other games in the series. So that gets us down to the last game of the month, and this was the only thing I got for the Nintendo Wii. This game is one that I looked at the cover and I thought, man, I don't see that too often, and then I flipped it over and I found out it was by WayForward, which is a very cool publisher of a lot of good 2D titles. But that is the revamped Centipede game, which is called Centipede Infestation. And I don't know a whole lot about this, I just know that I don't see it much. It's WayForward, so it interested me. Hopefully it'll be pretty good. Looks like it's an overhead 3D view, so that's okay. I can usually tolerate playing games like that. And the only other thing I noticed about this is it said something about a free missile command pack, details inside. I don't see like a little coupon or flyer for that inside the game, so maybe it's missing, I don't know. But I'm kind of curious if you know what that was all about too. Maybe it was just like a download, I don't know. So anyway, that pretty much does it for the month. Like I said, a little bit lighter on titles than it's probably been the last few months, but I got some pretty cool stuff in my opinion. Please leave me a comment and let me know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe to my videos if you have not already, and have a great day or night wherever you are. I will talk to you soon.